Evening, folks. Welcome back to The View for this week's first podcast of the week. We're going to talk about Leeds getting promoted to the Premier League. I'm not going to faff about. We're going to have a general chit-chat tonight. I am delighted to be joined by two men that were in amongst the absolute chaos and madness that was yesterday. It's Paul from the Leeds Therapy and Gerry McNamee in the house tonight to have a chat. So we'll start off with Paul. Good evening, Paul. How are you? How was it?
It was absolutely incredible. The atmosphere, it was non-stop. It was just absolutely unbelievable. It was just crackling and fizzing the entire time. It was when we got there. Obviously, I was with Joe Blackburn, but when we actually got in, I've never actually seen it fill up that quickly in the stands. Usually, it takes a little while to start to fill up a little bit, but it was like almost like everybody wanted to experience it. And it was the centre of town was packed, the centre of the city, was packed, and just everywhere was just there was this not celebratory atmosphere, but there was this expectant atmosphere, and within 40 minutes, you just sat going, somebody's going to need to explain this to me because I don't know what's just happened. It was almost like he just went, just go and do whatever you... I mean, he must have said to Firpo, play wherever you want, son. Just play wherever you want. I don't really care. But I know we'll get into it maybe in a little bit more detail, but the thing that stuck out to just everybody was on it yesterday. Whenever they got the ball, there was three of our guys around harrying, harassing, just doing absolutely everything. I've never sung so much in my entire life. I've never shouted and screamed and everything. And then I'm absolutely emotionally spent. I made a video when I got home yesterday and I couldn't speak. I wanted to articulate the way that I was feeling. I felt amazing on the inside, but on the outside, I looked like a sweaty blancmange mess. I was horrific. I wasn't drunk or anything, but I just looked like a mess, an absolute mess yesterday because I was that emotional release of everything. I think of how long the season's been, how stressful it's been, what's been on the line. If we didn't go up this season, all of that all got released yesterday. And it just like your body just goes, but yeah, I'm fantastic, mate. Absolutely fantastic.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Gerry, were you a blancmange mess or did you manage to keep yourself together?
Well, I normally am, anyway, just generally. I went into this game totally confident because I'd been to Oxford, and even though we dominated, it was and the Middlesbrough game as well. I suppose the Preston game, we only winning by a goal, but we just stood up and we looked like a team in control. And I just thought we're going to hammer Stoke today. I really felt it, and as Paul says, the atmosphere inside. People, it was expectant, but not in a nervous way, I thought, because too many times we've messed things up over the years. The Wigan game keeps popping up from Good Friday, of course, Derby, all these games, but I never any doubt. And I didn't expect Sheffield to win the other game, so I really was expecting. But the atmosphere from the first minute to be 5-0 up in 25, 26 minutes, you just look around thinking this is ridiculous. We probably need a sixth. But after the game, we went to a pub and then we went back to the ground. Everybody was piling out the Peacock and it was flares everywhere. And I just had a quiet moment. I just looked around and think about the people who'd passed through that we knew. And, I've watched kids grow up. My kids have grown up as Leeds fans, brainwashed. And my lad was with me yesterday. He's 30 and he's been through it all. And he used to always say, why did you always get the good times? We never had good times. And I thought, here's your good time. And we got to embrace these moments. And next season's, that's tomorrow to think about. But we just got to enjoy it. We got to see it because we didn't all get there on COVID. Some did. And it was just a perfect day. And the whole team celebrating. Fark wanted a beer. I think he was going to break loose yesterday. We were, I think, waiting to see. He was that inner calm. There's an animal in there who's going to break free one day, and he deserves his chance. And I heard some rubbish on TalkSport today. That Gabby silly idiot saying, he should be sacked and get a new manager. And go away, because it's rubbish. And he's got a phenomenal record. We've been the best team in this league. And it's shown, and for once we've proved it, and The table doesn't lie. And now, as somebody said there, we go on and win this trophy as long as we're not hungover or still drinking. I'm not sure Largy might need an extra day.
He might need a couple of days.
He looked the part, though, didn't he? In fairness to him,
he did. I mean, after all the stuff that apparently he's gone through and all the rumored stuff,
yeah,
he didn't look like he was out on the sidelines there at all to me last night.
No, and it was team effort, and you look at Joe Rodon for me. Somebody said to me today, "Side before self." He's the man who epitomizes that. Ampadu, the change, the bad run we had, Darlow coming in, Fark kept it steady. We were all doing our nuts and saying, "Are we blowing it? We should have bought players." And he even admitted last night, didn't he, that he wanted to, and we couldn't. So in some interesting stuff, but I can hereby confirm that Ryan Kent has been linked to us. This is the start. And on one little gem I heard yesterday, I don't know if it's true, you need to check this, but this is the first time we've won on Good Friday and Easter Monday since 1964. Someone needs to fact check that, but someone told me that yesterday. So it'll be interesting. But it's just lovely. Fixtures are out in June, and I'm just looking forward to the playoffs and just put my feet up. And I'm not looking forward to going to Crystal Palace next year. Horrible ground to get to, but everything else, it's going to be great. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot said between both of you there. I wasn't there. I was doing a watch long. I am at the Bristol City game next week, so I'm absolutely stoked. I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
But
it was interesting what you said about remembering people who've passed, Gerry, who weren't there, and it's interesting. I remember my dad was really ill the year Leeds got promoted. He passed away before Leeds got promoted, and he used to always say, he was only in his early 60s, but he used to always say, "I'll never see Leeds in the Premier League again in my lifetime." And what was really nice yesterday for me in a roundabout way was I got a Bremner Square brick for my dad that is right beside Billy Bremner's left arm. So when all the crowd were thronged there yesterday and celebrating with the flares, I got a little bit of me was like, well, he's there. He's right there. He's in the middle of all of it. So he'd love that. Yeah. But yeah, it was an important one as well. Again, just to get exercise the ghosts of COVID as well and move past that and have a proper party. And it was just fantastic to see everyone up there. Every screenshot I went to grab has Lewis Dayton slap bang in the middle of it with a flare in his hand. So he got himself around yesterday. Yeah, there's also, by the way, a little thing called the Creator Cup, which is happening on the 20th of July at the John Charles Community Stadium as well. If you want to check that out, there's details somewhere. Joe Blackburn will have them, but they're on one of the other videos on the channel. I have it linked to here today. I should have. But if you want to go to that Leeds United Creator Cup, you can look it up. And tickets are available for that. It's just before we play Manchester United in the pre-season friendly, which will then be the beginning of Leeds United's Premier League campaign, Paul. But I mean, from start to finish yesterday, we've talked about this before. We haven't seen a performance like this since the second leg against Norwich last season in the playoffs, where the shackles were very, very much off the team, and they just went for the jugular. And you're wondering, goal after 6, will we sit back now? Oh, hang on, goal after 8, will we sit back again now? Oh, we haven't scored for a couple of minutes, maybe 20 goal, and it just kept coming and coming and coming. And this team is a joy to watch, Paul, when they're allowed to play with freedom.
Yeah, the game itself was. I think we all thought that we were going to win. I think that we thought that I don't know, people don't like talking about the stats and everything, but the statistics of both teams suggest that we should win that game and win it quite comfortably. We're number 1 in the league at home. They're 17th away from home in terms of positions. So we should be winning this comfortably. What I didn't expect to see was a team that completely played at their peak in terms of everybody being on it from the absolute start. I said in my preview game that, given like the statistics and info, that we would score from an error from Stoke, and we did that 3 times, pretty much. And it was just like I was saying, it was when they had the ball, there was 3 players around them every single time that we absolutely pressed the life out of them. And then there was a point, there was me, Joe, and Joe's brother were sat. It was sort of like halfway through the first half, and I'm not joking. Every single Leeds United player was in the Stoke half, with our defenders were literally camped on their 18-yard box. That's how much we were squeezing the life out of them. And then when you look at it as well, the finishes for the goals, there's just Pirot's finishing was just outstanding yesterday. All of them just phenomenal. His first goal with his left foot, his second goal with his right foot, his hat-trick shot, where that's a lot harder than what that actually looks. In essence, that goal. And then obviously there's Firpo's off his shin and in. Then there's Willie Gnonto jumping like a salmon, all 5'5" of him to score past the keeper. The keeper, by the way, that some people will have had you believe that we should have bought at the start of this season.
I still think he's one of the best keepers in the league. I don't think he had a chance for any of the goals. It should be said.
For me, the absolute man of the match isn't even up for discussion yesterday. I know Pirot got his hat trick. Bogle was on another level yesterday. Just on another level yesterday. He terrorised their left back. I know he was a makeshift left back, but he terrorised. You could see that he was feeling it yesterday because every time he got the ball, he did this little skip, this little hop and jump thing just before he got the ball. He's like, he's going to go do something now. It was just phenomenal to watch. Just everybody to him. I've got no notes in terms of being annoyed about anything. Gruev, brilliant. It was just everything. You're welcome, Joe. It was just phenomenally good. Right, we'll get it out. I punched the woman in the boob yesterday. Not on purpose. It was on accident.
There it is.
We'll leave it there. But it was just the whole game was great. And just like I said, the atmosphere was fantastic. It was just phenomenally good fun.
Yeah. Gerry, talking about the game itself, watching that game and seeing how Leeds played and also the manner and the goals, because Paul picked out a couple there, but I think Pirot's first goal is a cracking finish because the ball is behind him and he manages to get up back and still direct it into the corner. His positioning for his hat-trick was fantastic as well. And one thing about Willie Gnonto's goal that I don't know if people know this, but just before Solomon puts that ball into the box, Gnonto just gives the defender, or Lewis Baker, a little push and away from him he goes and he gets on the end of it. Baker can't get back after him. So lovely little details in there to get their goal. But Gerry, what were your thoughts on the actual performance of the game?
Well, we've so many times this season we've got an early goal and then we don't score one till the end, and then when the second goes in you think yes, and then the third goes in, the fourth, and then when you see, I don't know which one Firpo scored, but when you see him shin the ball into the ground, bounces into the net, you thought this is our day. But as you say, Pirot, he'd been off it for a while. I mean, we used to joke we should bring Pirot on a few games because he wasn't really good. But against Oxford, I thought he was excellent, and he deserved, and I'm glad he's got those goals. That'll give a player like him such a lift. And going into the Premier League now, he thinks, I've earned this. He must be top scorer now.
He is, too clear.
And, it's a shame. Well, it's not a shame because I'm glad the season's over, but I'm sure he'd go on a streak now. He would, to get 4 goals. And I straight away, I remember the last guy who scored 4 goals was Ross McCormick on a very wet day at Charlton. And then it was Brian Dean before that against QPR and Mark Viduka, of course. And but it's a hell of a stat. But we were totally dominating the game. It could have been anything. And there's a few times there was a 50-50 ball with their keeper, and he got to it most times. And just a couple of inches more. And I'm greedy. I wanted double figures. I really did. And Stoke are no mugs. They're mid-table. They're average championship team, Mark Robbins. So they're not whipping boys or anything, and we absolutely destroyed them. I mean, Lewis Baker, his decision to turn us around to play to the cup in the first half.
I know, right?
The worst captain's decision I've ever seen. And the second half, it was always going to die down a bit, but I don't even remember much of the second half. It was we were just so much in control, and every player, every man did his job, and as you said, we were just released. And we came through a very sticky period, stood up in very tight games, and that first 25 minutes is just one of the most memorable I've ever seen at Elland Road. I mean, I've seen 5 goals in the first 20 minutes at Elland Road before. Preston, we were 4-1 up against Preston, and they beat us 6-4. That used to be the 10-goal Tuesday nights we used to have. But no, that was phenomenal. I'm so glad for Pirot and Willie as well, because Willie, when he came back in, he'd been playing quite against Oxford. He'd been playing quite in the middle and not out wide, but he looked like he was enjoying it. It's a great header for one of the smallest guys on the pitch. And maybe that'll be picked up on VAR next year. I don't know if one of them was offside. We got all that to worry. We'll worry about that next year. But we absolutely destroyed it. And I expect us to do the same in the next 2 games. I expect us to go go and win this and get 100 points. That would be testimony to a great season and a tough 2 years. It'll be great.
Yeah, the demons were definitely exercised yesterday. You could feel them coming out of the body and going away after the last 2 years we've had in the relegation season. There's 477 watching live. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you could stick your finger on that as well. Paul, one thing that stood out to me yesterday above everything else was the Leeds front press. It was incredibly well timed, incredibly aggressive. And if we look at the goals, they've written the first goal down. It's Tanaka wins the ball back high up. It bounces clear. Nanto again, Piro's run creates a gap. Nanto finds Solomon. Solomon finds Piro back at the net. Second goal, long ball forwards flicked on. Nanto presses. The ball's won back. Leeds win it back. Then Bogle and Nanto on the right-hand side. Leeds break and score. It was brilliantly executed yesterday, and we swarmed at the right time. There was moments of Bielsa type, not the complete swarm, but there were pockets of swarms around players, and we just seemed to overwhelm them in areas that they were a little bit weaker. That left back, Esprand, who was the third choice left back and had nightmares. I'd say he won't sleep well for a couple of weeks.
No, he won't. It was really, really good to see. What you saw Aronson sort of almost instigating the press a lot. So it was one of a group of either Aronson, Bogle and Nanto, or Aronson, Solomon and Firpo, or maybe even, Gruev and Tanaka, depending on the positioning. But there was always three men close to the ball whenever Stoke had the ball. And it was it was an absolute joy to watch yesterday. That first half was just so good. The closing, we just didn't give them a sniff of anything at all. It was that foot on the throat. Let's just keep this going, keep it moving. And for all of us all thinking they're all knackered and, they're all very, very tired and it's the end of the season. They all looked fitting up for it yesterday. Really, really fitting up for it yesterday. And to be fair, the second half was never, ever going to be as good as the first half in terms of goals that were being scored. But what it was basically a bunch of predators playing with their food. That's what the second half was for me. But just that press and that energy constantly. They didn't have any time on the ball at all to do anything. They didn't have the opportunity to make anything happen. It was long balls and everything. And you had Rodon and Ampadu were just there sweeping everything up. One funny anecdote that I do need to tell you. It's not rude, so don't worry. I was getting on the bus to go back into Leeds as the Stoke fans were leaving. So I'm just going to go away, have a pint, and just try and calm down a little bit. So we're watching all the Stoke buses come past and we're all giving it 6-0. And then this coach came past and I swear to God, Happy Days coaches of Stoke. There's two coaches called Happy Days coaches of Stoke. Which I was just that's really not Happy Days whatsoever at all. But yeah, the press was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal yesterday.
Stoke isn't a happy place.
It's not now, no.
Never been. Never been a happy place. Have you ever been? The road through it's the best thing. Anyway, listen, give them enough punishment for one day. Sorry, Stoke.
They got enough. Pirro as well seems to have a real problem with Stoke, doesn't he? Was it 6 of his goals? 30% of his goals have come against Stoke.
So it was 2 he got. Yeah.
Gerry, I want to ask you about another thing. There was lots of, I kind of was doing the watch along on Big Up yesterday and I was building up to it, kind of saying there's lots of little narratives around the pitch that could happen today. Pat Bamford redemption arc. If he scores the winner, that gives Leeds the win that puts them back into the Premier League. Could Junior Firpo score a winning goal on his way out the door? But give Leeds a salute and all the best as he heads off to different pastures. Could be a Harry Gray coming off the bench, getting the winner. Brendan Aronson redemption. All these kind of little narratives that were popping up around the pitch. Joe Pirro ultimately steals the headlines, but the big one towards the back end of the game, we were all hoping to see it, was a 16-year-old, just gone 16 in October. Harry Gray comes onto the park. Gerry makes his debut. Fantastic moment for the Greys. A very emotional looking Eddie Gray in the stands when he came on, but doesn't look like a 16-year-old walking out onto that pitch, and he was okay to handle himself as well.
Yeah, what's funny is Dad was sitting up and Mum were just sitting behind us. Andy Gray, a couple of rows behind, and at half time I just said, "Have you got a conveyor belt? How many more of these have you got coming through?" Because it's phenomenal. And I know someone who knows the coach who coached him, and he said this guy some players like Gareth Bale and that, and they needed to work hard to get to where they are. This kid's always been elite, and he looks, from what I hear and what I've seen, bits and pieces, looks a real talent. He was beside us at Norwich away last year in the playoff, and he just looked like a sulky teenager. And so did Archie, but they're nice kids. But yeah, he's someone that's going to excite. And now we're in the Premier League. Hopefully we can hang on to him for a while, but he'll definitely see time next year. But yeah, lots of narratives. Pat Bamford, I think, since he's come back, that game in Luton, he had a couple of little things against Middlesbrough. That cameo, phenomenal. I think his appearances, and you can see his confidence. I think that has played a small part in this whole thing about the way we stood tall and everything else. And I really do hope he gets a goal. I think he's probably going to stay for another season, because I think his wages double back again, don't they? And he's got another year of his contract. So I think whether if he moves on, I think he'd be perfect for someone like who's linked to Wrexham. I think that would do him. But fair play to Pat, and he gets a lot of stick, not always in the ground, but I remember that season in the Premier League, and some of the goals he scored, some of the ones he's missed as well. But yeah, you got to like him a bit. I think Firpo will go. I think it's okay. Go and walk about. We watched him playing on the right wing and right back against Oxford and wherever he wanted yesterday. I don't think he can do that in the Premier League, and I think he may be going. I think Medley will go. Brendan, I don't think he'll be up to it. Whether we keep him, I don't know. I think he's come short in a lot of games, and all over the pitch. You look at Gilavogi; he's been brilliant. He's not done a lot, but vibes man, as they say, and he seems to have behind the scenes done a lot. And Willie's an interesting one. Will he stay? Will he go? As he's in the Premier League now, he looks sad when he's coming off, but he looks happy when he scores. We keep most of them and add to the squad. You don't want to flip over everybody, but we've got a strong squad. But I think we need to add 6 or 7 players, quality players, and not projects. Not someone who's done all right in the Bundesliga somewhere in the second division. We need quality players. Get Kevin Keller to start with.
Yeah.
Get him in and goals. Yeah. And someone said De Bruyne. I was thinking of De Bruyne. Yeah, get someone like him. He still sounds like he thinks he's got something to prove. It'd be brilliant.
I assumed he'd head off towards the MLS, but you never know. And maybe Daniel Farke can talk him into a year. You never know. Because, again, another experienced player to have for certain games. But I agree with you, Gerry. I think you keep the bulk of this squad and you add to it, because you're going to need depth next year, and you're going to need plenty of options in plenty of positions. We can't go into the Premier League with square pegs and round holes. It's got to be done properly and done the right way. But I think everything's been said. Lots of people saying here that Junior Firpo's wife has been given the view on her socials that Firpo is going to sign a contract extension at the club. I still think we need another left back if that is the case, because there will be games where we need a more defensive minded left back, and you're going to want that there, and a more attack minded Junior Firpo for when we need an additional number 9 on the pitch, because where he scored his goal from, Paul, was inside the 6-yard area, slap bang in the middle of the goal where your number 9 is supposed to be standing for tap-ins. But there's Junior Firpo to play 1-2 with himself. Talk to me about the performance from the rest of the players, because we've talked an awful lot about Joe Piru. The defense were fantastic again when they did have to clean up, and you can switch off in those kind of games when it's so dominant and it's so one-sided. You can switch off for a second, and even in those moments where Leeds look like they might get caught out with a counter-attack, it was either Manor Solomon coming back and doing the dirty work, or Jayden Bogle nipping in, or Joe Rodon going across and doing what he did. And Ethan Ampadu's passing yesterday, that quarterback role from the centre-back position, I thought was absolutely fantastic. His switching of the play quickly, which I'm critical of him when he's in midfield, and he doesn't do that enough. But when he's centre-back, that constant switching of the ball causes teams so many problems. I thought that they were excellent yesterday as well.
Yeah, what was really, really good to see from both of them actually was how quickly they were looking to release the ball and how quickly they were looking to get out. There were times when, particularly Bogle on the right-hand side, because Bogle just wanted the ball all the time, but the ball wasn't coming directly to him straight away. But the times where they were looking to move and switch it, it was done quickly. They weren't messing around. People were moving and knew their positions well in terms of when to go forwards and press, when to come back to help out. I saw Solomon doing it for the majority of the game, just coming back constantly and covering, not just covering for Firpo, but just being that little extra man in there just to completely stifle any opportunity that Stoke might have had to bring it forwards. And it's not lost on me that since Darlow's come in, it's almost like they've just got an additional level of confidence in terms of defenders. They just seem to have that little bit more than what they had when, and this isn't me having a go at Meslier, but just they seem to be able to do their jobs a little bit better. But I was going to mention Gruev as well. Gruev was all over the place.
He was, and involved in 2 goals as well. For a man that isn't progressive, he was plenty involved in 2 goals yesterday as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just the way, the amount of ground that he actually covered was really, really pleasing to see. And just I wish he'd get a bit more comfortable with his right foot at times, but other than that, for the entirety of his game, he was brilliant. The only one that maybe just Tanaka, a couple of misplaced passes, 2 or 3 times in the game, a couple of misplaced passes. But what I did see apart from that, just fantastic, just overall fantastic and really good to see.
Yeah, everyone's asking about what we need next season. Some people talking about the manager next season and that. Let's wait till next season. Enjoy now. Enjoy right now. Let next season, the transfer window opens on the 1st of June for 10 days for the Club World Cup. It then closes for 6, sorry, Paul, and then it reopens again. So Leeds have an opportunity to go in and get their business done early, but we'll talk about all that stuff when we get to that stage. There's still some football to enjoy, and we can enjoy now, title or not. But Gerry, that's the next question. And before we go to one of the questions that I do want to ask you, that's been asked by Richard Todd, can you pick 2 players from the Championship that we could sign and 2 players we could genuinely sign from 3 relegated sides? But let me know your Championship players that you would nick if you could nick any of them in a second. But Gerry, we've got 2 more games. We've got Bristol City at home, Plymouth away. Title is next for Leeds. Do you think they've got enough now to keep this momentum going and push on? Leeds seem to celebrate a little bit harder than Burnley were celebrating yesterday. People have commented on there was no fans outside the ground at Burnley yesterday. In fact, there was actually pockets of empty space in the stadium where Leeds had 20,000 people outside the ground till 11 o'clock at night. Do you think that's a factor, or where do you think we go from here now? 2 games to go.
We've got a week. We've got next Monday night, so I think they'll be ready. And I think this team want to go on and win. The 100 points and the title's got to be something that they go for. So Bristol City, the playoffs, I think they're nearly there, but so they'll have something to play for. We've got a great record against Bristol City. It could be tricky, but I think we'll beat them. And I think Plymouth, at their time could be up by the time we play them. And because Luton and Derby seem to be pulling away a bit. And so, I mean, they've the great effort from them. So collecting the title, there'll be a helicopter buzzing between wherever Burnley and Plymouth. That's going to have to be a quick helicopter. And I think we'll get the title presented at Plymouth. That's going to be an interesting day because a lot of people are going to be travelling without tickets just to be there. I've spoken to a few. It'll be Bournemouth. Who thought putting Leeds at the seaside on a bank holiday when they could be going up was a good idea? But it'll be fun. So I'm confident we can go on and get the 6 points. And if we don't, so be it. It's not the end of the world, but it would be nice. And we could have 2 trophies in a week when we win the National League trophy down at Sutton. That would be fun. If I could get, but one thing I would change as early as possible is the set piece coach, because we can't take corners. Solomon either first man or he puts it into the stand on the far side. No, we can't. We need a set piece coach. That's, as you say, that's for tomorrow. But get that. But I think we'll be okay. I'm sure Fark said to the lads, celebrate. You deserve this. Have a day off. We've got all week, and let's go again. I want to win this title. I'm sure that determination is still there, and we'll be back going against Bristol City.
Yeah, love that. Before we wrap up, Paul, 2 players in the Championship that you think Leeds could pick up and could actually play for Leeds next season.
Hamer would be one. I think he's been allowed to get away with a lot of stuff at Sheffield United. I don't think if he comes in with Farke, I don't think Farke lets him get away with that at all.
No, he picks up.
Yeah, but Saez would be the other one as well from Norwich.
Yeah.
Just I like the look of him. He scores really, really well. He's a very, very tricky player for me.
442 named him as the best player in the EFL this season, which I thought was a bit of a stretch, but Yeah, because I thought some one of our players would be. Somebody mentions Cooper, the goalkeeper. Jude Bellingham. Any of the
Yes.
Sunderland players? Possibly. There's a couple of guys at Coventry, and I can't remember the name. Is it? Yes, there's a Coventry guy, and I can't remember. I think he played for Huddersfield before, and I can't remember his name.
Oh, Ben Chef, is it? Ben Chef?
No, it's not Chef. It's Rodon or something like that. I can't.
Oh, Jack Rodoni.
Yeah,
Rodoni.
But not having seen lots of them. I suppose the relegation team. I don't think I touch anybody at Leicester. There's that guy at Southampton, that young kid who's is a topping. I've got great Dibble. Not going to get near him, but he looks a real talent.
Yeah.
And Ipswich, Delap. He's out of our range. Sammy Schmodek, just because he wears a green shirt. I don't know. We never really got to go. And the one people keep mentioning, and there was a lot of discussion yesterday, Calvin. What would you do? Would you take Calvin back?
No.
I would. No. I think if you were to frame it this way, Leeds been linked with a central defensive midfielder who hasn't had a good season under 3 managers at 3 separate clubs in the last 3 years. I think everyone would say no. I think when you put Calvin Phillips on it, the emotion comes into it, and you say, well, maybe Calvin, you bring him home. But outside of Bielsa, there was talk of Calvin Phillips leaving Leeds before Bielsa came in, and he turned him from a 10 into a 6, and the rest was history.
He was a Bielsa product, really, wasn't he? And he's a bit lost. He's a bit lost. And it'd be great, and you'd like to think, but probably should never go back. Yeah.
But I think for the money, he's on 150k a week, and for again, Leeds need to be ruthless and clinical when it comes to the signings they make next season. They can't afford to, as you said, projects, but also you can't afford to have nostalgia cases as well, because you can slip into those. Interesting, Paul. You said science, didn't you? I personally, Michael Cooper, if Sheffield United don't go up, we'll talk about that for a quick sec. I think Michael Cooper will be a great show for Bengal. I think he's had a phenomenal season for them. He's a very, very good goalkeeper. I like Vinny Souza as well, but I also do like the Joe Bellingham shout. Sorry,
I do as well. I think I know he gets a lot of stick because he's kind of walking in his brother's shadow a little bit, unfortunately. But he does. He's a big, strong, tough, progressive midfielder. I think he would fit in quite well with us. Absolutely. It's a weird one because you kind of sit and you think to yourself, right? Yeah, we could pick players from the Championship that we bring in, but should we be thinking of that level? Do we not need to?
Ipswich got too many in last year.
Yeah, you go a step above that a little bit and work on. I mean, I see a lot of people talking about Ramsdale. I wouldn't have Ramsdale anywhere near our squad.
He's damaged. I think he's damaged. Yeah,
I just wouldn't. Just for me, I just wouldn't do it.
With my Irish bias, another one I was thinking of Finn Azaz at Middlesbrough. He's been decent.
He has it in the Premier League though. I always think Finn struggles with that. Just games with Ireland where I look and I think he's out of his depth a little bit, and he hasn't made that extra step. Josh Cullen seems to have made that step, but I don't think Finn has done it just yet. But he's got time. He's still young.
Well, as we say, we don't want to overload ourselves with Championship players. Maybe a couple, 2 or 3, but it's the upper echelons that we need to be looking at. All Irish players. Evan Ferguson. There's one I'm going to throw in. He's had a terrible time on loan at West Ham. Brighton seems to have lost his way, but he's a real talent, and he was worth 100 million, or he's been touted as 100 million a couple of seasons ago. England wanted to cap him, and he lost his way a bit. But I think as a centre forward, someone like that, if Brighton are looking to move him on, I think someone like that. But
yeah.
Not just the Irish team in. Yeah, let's get Seamus Coleman.
The whole Irish team.
We've got pretty much half of the Welsh squad in the team, so
yeah, we do.
Bring the Celts all together and just have a Celt club.
Yeah, there's a few Scots. Get a few Scots in there. We'll have a go.
A question, Michael, got any Bundesliga with Farke connections? There's 2 already. Nico Elvedi has been rumoured since January, and the whole thing with him is a very, very good centre-back, would be an excellent signing from Gladbach. The situation with him is he's expected to leave because they're reshaking up their whole back line in the summer, and he gets on well with Farke, but he's only interested in a move to the Premier League, so that means there's a possibility of that. The other one is Julian Weigl, who has a very, very close relationship with Daniel Farke. He is open to a move, but he said only in the Premier League. Central midfielder. Daniel Farke brought him into Gladbach initially on loan, and he played in every single minute available that Farke could have him on the pitch, whether he was coming back from it. So very similar to what he's done at Leeds with Ampadu, very similar to what he did at Norwich with Buendia. He's played every single minute when he could play, and then he signed him permanently there as well before he moved on. So yeah, Julian Weigl and Nico Elvedi are the two names in Germany. I would be shocked if Leeds don't dip into that market a lot more in Germany. You might see a couple more come in, but yeah, there will be signings needed. We'll get into all that stuff as the weeks go on. But one last question. Seeing as the Sheffield United house absolutely collapsed, Gerry, in the final weeks of the season, do you see them getting up out of the playoffs? They've just got a worse record in the playoffs than we have. I think they're 0-9 in the playoffs or something like that.
Yeah, you do fear for them because when you go into the playoffs on a downer, and it's there's a lot of tricks playing in your head. They're 20 points or whatever it is ahead of fifth or sixth place, and that's why it's unfair. I think sixth should play fifth should, the winner of that play fourth, and play third in the final when there's got to be something on places. But they're psychologically, there must be losing 4 out of 5 games at the most vital part of the season. Sunderland have been sitting there in limbo for a few weeks, so I think one of the teams coming in hot who's just glad to be there, somehow make it. Could be Fat Frank, could be Bristol City. I'd like Bristol City. I don't mind them going up. Although I'm thinking of travelling, but we got a good record against them. But I think they could struggle. It'll be Sunderland against Sheffield United, probably against Coventry potentially. I think they're in 6th. I could be wrong. And that's it's down to knockout football then, and they could be in trouble.
Yeah,
just nice that it's not us this season.
I don't care.
Well, exactly. Yes, I'll get your take on it in a sec. Nick Hammond is going well, Angus, to Everton, but Leeds apparently will be getting compensation for both of them. Wayne is asking about goalkeepers from Chelsea. Petrovic has already been linked with a move to Leeds. He's currently on loan at Strasbourg. Decent keeper as well. They've got loads of decent keepers, Chelsea. They just don't seem to be very much decent for them. Paul, what's your thoughts on the Sheffield United stuff going into the playoffs now? Do they absolutely capitulate now and miss out completely, or do they sneak up?
It depends on the last 2 games of the season. You'll know more once the last 2 games of the season have finished in terms of where they're gonna end up. I think nobody expected what's happened to Sheffield United. Nobody expected them to lose 3 games on the spin. They'd won 8 out of put him.
It's 4 defeats in 5.
4 defeats in 5. Yeah, they before that little run, they'd won. What was it? 8 out of 9, I think it was, or something like that. But just seeing that capitulation was just ridiculous in terms of the way that it happened. It was. I just didn't expect it to happen. When they lost, you're like, all right, fair enough. That's right. They'll win the next one, but they didn't. They just didn't. And Chris Wilder, who we all don't like, which is fine, but he's normally quite he says some silly things at times, but he's normally quite good at soaking up the pressure and being able to take it. And he seemed to really let it get to him over those games, and that seemed to just spread out to everybody. And then obviously there was the stuff that happened with Plymouth and Darko JB and the other player there, and calling somebody fat in the crowd at Plymouth, and then obviously something then happened. What was it at the end of the game against Burnley?
The crowd on the pitch, he says they weren't protected by Burnley at all, and they were left to themselves. And the manager didn't come over and shake his hand. I'm like, Chris, you wouldn't have done it either in that moment. No, they seem to have an issue with people celebrating in front of their own fans in their own stadiums.
Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of what I got from it. But just that, I don't think it's just even players that aren't capable of doing it. Just there seems something just appears to have happened with everybody, and it's just literally just like a virus has just worked its way through the entire club. Just absolutely worked its way through the entire club. This is what I like to say as well. We gave teams a chance this year. We gave everybody a chance, and you messed it up. You bought players in January, and yet you still sit third.
Third, yeah. They bought a lot of players, and a lot of big players as well. It just hasn't worked for them at all. Nope. But Yeah, folks, I think we'll start to wrap it up there. There's been a lot of talk about this. We could probably talk about today all up, but it's not over yet. There's still 2 games. We want the title as well. We want that shiny, lovely, beautiful trophy on the final game of the season in Plymouth. Paul, before we go, what's going on over your channel this week?
Sorry, I pressed the button then. Sorry. I've done my review video. There's some shorts of that for people with the short attention spans. I'm going to do a video with regards to promotion. I've got a video coming up with regards to just like reviewing the year in the whole and things that I think is the most important, or the important game of the season, that type of thing, and just talking about players that I think deserve player of the season, but just put my 10 pence in, that type of stuff. Usual.
Yeah. Gerry, what are you up to this week? And are you heading down to the Bristol City game?
Yeah, I'm at the last 2 games. I'm cutting the grass this week. I'm just smiling. My next door neighbour's a Newcastle fan, and we're both very happy people. Yeah, after the seasons we've had, so I'm going to cut the grass, do gardening things, explain to my other half that there's 8 games less next year. Cup
run, Gerry. There's a cup run next year.
Yeah, she's a Man U fan, and she wants to go to that game. She wore red gloves the last time, but she's good with the dog, so I'll stick with it. Yes, she's all right. So I'm just going to relax, watch social media, just enjoy it, watch football, and just think, oh, if they win, Stoke are playing Sheffield. Oh, if they could win, get a point. I don't care. And it's just doesn't. It never feels like this for a Leeds fan. It's just we've had 6. I think this must be our 6th season in a row where we've had something on, whether relegation, promotion, staying up, and we just it's nice. Just sit back, relax, and it's good to see you. Hopefully, see you at Bristol City next week.
I'll go out my way to try and make sure I do see. I'm trying to get around.
I've got a stone near the Bremner arm as well, so we mightn't be too far apart. I always touch it when I go.
Same. I was going to say with my dad. I always say that when I go to the graveyard, I never feel like my dad is there. But when I go to Ellen Road and Billy, I always feel like he's around the place. You get feeling.
Good. Yeah, and those people. Cheers to all those people who weren't there yesterday. We remember them well, and it's that's what it's all about.
Just if I can, it was also really nice to meet the Only Leeds Bros guys.
Yes.
As well, and to be there with them as they put the wreath down for the dad as well. That was an absolute honour and a privilege for me to be there. So that one was definitely for your dad, I think, without a shadow of a doubt.
I sent Darren a text yesterday, and I said, Dad's fingerprints all over that result yesterday. Up there pulling the strings, making sure we get over the line. So, good guys. 2 very good guys. Right, folks, we wrap it up there. The news from today is available on the channel if you want to check that out. I'm back in the morning for whatever fallout we've got. It's going to be a weird week, I think, but we'll have something out in the morning, and then we'll get ready for the weekend's game against Bristol City, which I am going to. And again, big shout out to John Foxley for helping me out with tickets for the game. Really appreciate it, mate. And I will see as many people as I can when I get over there. But enjoy the rest of the day. In the Premier League, Leeds United are a Premier League side. Let that sink in. Enjoy the rest of your day and your week, and I'll talk to you soon, folks. All the best. Thanks, lads. See you.
Bye. Good night.